In 1986 through 1987, British writer Alan Moore and artist Dave Gibson and John Higgins created the political superhero comic Watchmen. Set in an alternate 1985, the characters are set to stop a devastating plan by Adrian Veidt, also known as Ozymandias. Rorschach starts an investigation of the death of the comedian Edward Blake to set further on this incredible story. What started as an idea to turn into costume heroes was something much bigger than expected. This is the Millie Multiverse to dive in on the exciting adaptations of the Watchmen universe. Spoiler warning, I am going to go over both the comic, the movie, and the TV series. Let's first go over the 2009 film. The film was directed by 300 and Justice League director Zack Snyder after taking over directing duties at Warner Brothers and Paramount Pictures when working on the film adaptation of Watchmen. The film takes more of his style of epic comic book films, mainly a lot of violence, a lot of swears, and a lot of sex. He mostly focuses on style, aesthetic, cool, epic, badass fight scenes, or great cinematography, overly highlighting of a greater story. The film was mostly passable due to the resemblance and the reference materials of the comic used for storyboards or shot recreations. A lot of things were cut, mainly the big finale. Realistically, for an average viewer, I understand it would be a little goofy having a giant squid pop out in the center of New York, but that was the whole purpose of the story. The point of the alien squid appearing was supposed to change your perception on comic book stories and your role in reading it, seeing how the villain or the antagonist of the story won, and that the heroes can never tell what really happened, otherwise it would ruin a new decade of peace that Ozymandias has presented to the world. But the film rather just say that, oh, Dr. Manhattan is the one that did it, and he's the one with superpowers, so he has to be it. No. That basically kind of ruins the original story just by blaming it on Dr. Manhattan. Without the giant squid, the perception you're trying to serve to the story is poorly executed. I mean, it's still there, but it's basically just Akira now. It's a poor man's Akira. This film is basically the poor man's Akira. The giant light explosion? Yeah, Akira did it way before Watchmen was a thing. Nevertheless, the film was a financial success and has gained a bit of a cult following with certain fans. In my personal opinion, I would prefer the director's cut over the theatrical. I watched the original when I was about 15 or 10 at the time. I don't specifically remember, but I remember that I thought this was revolutionary to comic book films, because I've never seen an epic comic book film like this. Though there have been other hard R-rated comic book films such as Blade or The Crow. If you really want the full-fledged of Watchmen, or at least something that closely resembles the comic, go for the director's cut. They add a lot of extra dialogue that is closer to the story, and they even made an animated short that tells the comic within the comic pirate storyline. Now, let's move on to the HBO series. The HBO sequel is way better than I thought. Created by Tomorrowland writer and producer Damien Lindelof, HBO's Watchmen is a sequel to the original comic that focuses on new protagonist Regina King's sister knight, aka Angela Abar, set in the town of Tulsa, Oklahoma. The story focuses on a racist organization, basically a KKK organization calling themselves the Seventh Cavalry, modeling and inspiring off of Rorschach. Their plan is to extract Dr. Manhattan's abilities and taking them for themselves to reshape the world. The TV show takes a lot of the older characters from the original comics and creating newer characters mainly created for the show to elevate new heights never before seen within the Watchmen universe. Regina King delivers a kick-ass performance as Angela Abbott, also including returning characters such as Silk Spectre, Ozymandias, and Dr. Manhattan. Even if you have never read the original comic or have heard of these characters, the actors deliver brilliantly on their performances, selling us as the definitive Watchmen. Jeremy Irons as Ozymandias knocks it out of the park with his cold, calculated, and intimidating performance. Yahya Abdul-Mateen's Dr. Manhattan is an interesting one to say the least. His performance is amazing, but the take on Dr. Manhattan is very exciting to watch. Minusing the fact that his makeup makes him look like he's in a porno, this one is interesting by bringing back his romantic conflicts in the original comic to show how he's mainly a god-level figure, and being in love with him is very difficult to manage. Dr. Manhattan's romance in the comic and in the movie, due to him being a literal god, it's hard for him to maintain focus on his relationships since he doesn't tether to human emotions as much, raising the question, is he doomed to be alone, or is there someone out there just for him? Despite the fact not having a season 2 and now being officially written off as a limited series, HBO's Watchmen is a pretty satisfying sequel to hopefully satisfy original comic book fans or raise more questions that have already been answered. Watchmen was one of the most interesting comics to come out around its time. In a world where we have either lighthearted, family-friendly Marvel films or experimental epic DC films, Watchmen stands out above the rest, seeing how there are other stories out there that aren't just Marvel and DC, raising the stakes for future filmmakers to explore the unknowns in the comic book realm of storytelling.